Happy Monday and welcome back to the Lorden Arts channel. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. Before we get to today's episode, just a reminder that episode 2 of Lorden Arts Uncovered comes out this Wednesday. You don't want to miss it. Uncovered.com is one of the best case research sites that I've ever seen. I'm working together with them. We're bringing you into cases like never before. Check out episode 2 of Lorden Arts Uncovered this Wednesday. On to today's show. Case Cracked is the show where we look into a mystery. And what are the critical pieces that help solve that mystery? Today's episode is called It's a Strange Thing. Joanne Wilson was born Joanne Geiger to Harlan and Betty in Osage, Iowa in 1939. Her life stayed on an uneventful track until she attended college at Iowa State University in 1960. There, she met Colin Thatcher. After only 2 years of dating, the couple married in 1962 and moved from the United States to the town of Moose Jaw in Saskatchewan, Canada. Colin's family was originally from the area, and in 1964, Colin's father, Wilbert Ross Thatcher, went from working in the meat industry at Canada Packers to politics, becoming the premier, or head of government, for Saskatchewan. Colin had graduated from Iowa State with a bachelor and master's degree in agriculture. While Colin worked at the family ranch in Moose Jaw, his political ambitions simmered under the surface. Joanne focused on raising their 3 children, Reagan, Stephanie, and Greg, while also working at various jobs. After his father's death in 1971, Colin formally entered politics and seemed to stir up quite a bit of trouble. Described as the J.R. Ewing of Saskatchewan, Thatcher became a member of the Legislative Assembly, winning the provincial riding, or electoral district, of Thunder Creek in 1975, and he was known as the flamboyant millionaire rancher. He participated in various extramarital affairs that he did very little to hide from the public, let alone his wife. It seemed that Joanne was the one person that he underestimated the most. She was horrified and troubled by his behavior in both politics and their marriage, and as a result, their relationship began to fall apart. When she tried to confront him about his infidelity, he began to physically abuse her. By 1979, they were divorced, but Thatcher continued to harass Joanne. A big sticking point in their divorce was the custody battle that resulted. Each wanted the 3 children and were unwilling to back down. By 1980, Greg was living by choice with his father. Stephanie was with Joanne, but Reagan's fate had not yet been decided. A year later, in May of 1981, Joanne was forced to give up the fight. While standing near a window in her kitchen, someone shot her with a high-powered rifle through the window, hitting her shoulder. This persuaded her to not only agree to let Reagan live with his father, but she also dropped her divorce settlement amount from somewhere around $1 million to half of that. This, she said, would allow her to concentrate on her life with her new husband, Colin Thatcher's former best friend, Tony Wilson. Who fired the shot? An extensive investigation was launched with Thatcher as one of the prime suspects, but no connection was ever found and no one was ever charged for the crime. The now lowered settlement did little to quell Thatcher's anger, and even after Joanne remarried in January of 1981, Thatcher's abusive ways continued. Then, tragedy struck. On January 21, 1983, the body of 43-year-old Joanne was found on the floor of her garage, lying in a pool of blood. She had been badly beaten and shot. She was covered in defensive wounds. When the bullet fragments were recovered and tested, an RCMP forensic expert determined that they were from a Ruger pistol. When investigators arrived, they quickly noticed that Joanne's stepdaughter, Stephanie, was missing from the household. Thankfully, her stepfather found her staying at a friend's house. Neighbor Craig Anderson was the person who found her body. He stated, along with other witnesses on the street, that a man left Joanne's garage just minutes before Craig found her. He, along with these witnesses, said that the man appeared to be in his 30s. He was of slim build, with collar-length hair and a trimmed beard and mustache. He quickly disappeared down an alley next to the house. The neighbors were able to describe the car he left in. It was a 1975 to 1977 pea green Chrysler Cordoba with a green vinyl roof. A composite sketch of the man was drawn up, and all the details were included in a nationwide alert, along with a $50,000 reward being offered for information leading to the arrest of her killer. Everyone seemed to concur that the man in the sketch didn't look like Colin Thatcher, but stories of Colin discussing wanting to murder his ex-wife weren't hard to find. In 1979, Thatcher was visiting his friend, former provincial progressive conservative leader Dick Culver, at his home in Arizona. Culver stated that Thatcher was enraged that Joanne had married his best friend and wanted Culver to find a hitman. The conversation upset the man enough that he called his attorney and asked what he should do in the situation. He was told that under the law, he had no legal obligation to do anything, including alerting the police. Culver simply told Colin, "Until you get rid of this obsession, I'm going to ask you to leave my ranch." Thatcher's girlfriend, Lynn Mendel, claimed that he had been talking of killing Joanne since the fall of 1980. When his ex-wife was shot in 1981, Thatcher told Mendel that he had been the one to shoot her, but missed the killing shot because the glass of the window was thicker than he anticipated. The night of Joanne's murder, Thatcher made 3 calls to his girlfriend. In the first call, he claimed that he was going out, stating, "This might be the night." On the second call, he stated, "Oh my God, I've just been called. Apparently Joanne has been shot in her home and she's been killed." Mendel believed that Thatcher had driven to Joanne's home that night to assist in some way with the killing. The most damning evidence came from Thatcher's neighbor, Gary Anderson. He said that since 1980, Thatcher had tried to hire Anderson to kill Joanne, offering the man $50,000. Anderson declined. However, in 1981, Anderson stated that he helped hire 2 men for $19,000 who agreed to kill Joanne. The men didn't follow through. He also said that later that same year, he provided Thatcher with a .303 caliber rifle and a rented car shortly before Joanne was shot the first time. The day of Joanne's murder, Thatcher borrowed a 1974 Mercury sedan and took a .357 Magnum Ruger revolver from Anderson, who had it in his possession. Anderson was told to pick up the car a few streets from Joanne's house. In it, he found a ski jacket, blue jeans, and a tuft of hair that appeared to have come from a wig. The clothes and wig piece were burned. 15 months later, the two had another conversation, but this time, Anderson agreed to wear a wire so that investigators could capture everything that was said. During the recording, Anderson makes 2 references to Joanne's killing. The first time he states, "Well, I'm glad it went down." The second time he said, "I'm glad you got her." Both times, Thatcher's replies are in the affirmative by saying, "Yeah." He also stated, "It's a strange thing to blow your wife away." Regarding his alibi, Thatcher stated, "And you know, I was just lucky that night. I was home with 4 people. 4 people. Pretty solid, and that's pretty hard." Anderson then spoke about how fearful he was that the two would be caught by police. He was told by Thatcher to just deny, and everything would be fine. Anderson was charged with guns, ammunition, and cleanup services in Joanne's murder, but was given immunity by the prosecution for his testimony at trial. This also made him eligible for the $50,000 reward that had been offered. When questioned formally, Thatcher denied all of the claims. He said that he had not killed his wife, nor did he discuss it. He says his conversation with Anderson was taken out of context, and he was able to verify his alibi. On the night of the murder, he was in Moose Jaw with his 2 sons and housekeeper. They all testified that he was there when the call about Joanne was received, eating hamburger helper. The one thing he was unable to deny was a credit card receipt investigators found at the murder scene that was in his name. He claimed to have no idea how the receipt could have been found there. On May 7, 1984, police stopped Thatcher as he left Moose Jaw. He was arrested for the first-degree murder of his ex-wife. A jury would soon decide Thatcher's fate. He was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 15 years. In 2006, Colin Thatcher was granted parole. Still ever boastful, in an interview with CBC News in 2007, he claimed that he was in the shape of his life And on his ranch, he was doing things he couldn't do back when he was 20 years old. He credited his daily workouts in prison for his physical shape and says, quote, "I'll die working. I will probably die in a pen sorting cattle or something, and that'll suit me fine to go that way." He has maintained his innocence the entire time, and in 2009 released a book about his case titled Final Appeal: Anatomy of a Frame. One reviewer on Amazon called it The Ramblings of a Narcissist. Case cracked. I would like to thank the CBC, the Montreal Gazette, UPI.com, Encyclopedia.com, and the Regina Leader Post. Of course, the biggest thank you goes to Christy Arnhart for researching and writing up today's case, and here she is now to discuss it with us. Well, Christy, with all the information that prosecutors had, particularly from Gary Anderson, I would think that this should have been a smooth trial.
Well, yeah, you would think so, but you have to think about who you're dealing with, too.
Right.
Now, during the trial, Thatcher pulled out all the stops. He even became a born-again Christian during the trial. It's always something with him, I think.
Wow.
The prosecution knew they had to show everybody the real Colin Thatcher, so they played the tape from the conversation with Gary Anderson. Now, while that helped, apparently the big moment in the courtroom was a mistake his legal team made. They put him on the stand.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, obviously they have to follow his, like, he gets to make that decision ultimately because they're representing him. But I imagine every one of his legal defense team was like, no.
Yeah, but he's not the kind of person to be told no either.
Yeah.
So, the prosecution knew they were dealing with this Jekyll and Hyde type personality.
Right.
So all they had to do was set him off. They did that, and then the jury really saw a different side to him.
This is like an episode of Perry Mason or something. Like, that's what Perry Mason would always do. He'd always get the person in the stand and then like say the thing that would. How did they set him off? What was the conversation?
Believe it or not, it was about his kids. They questioned the word of his kids. Yeah. Now, remember, they were key to his alibi.
Yeah.
And the suggestion that they would lie on the stand just literally made him erupt. He leaned halfway out of the witness box and yelled at the prosecutor, "It's easy to say that my sons have lied. Why don't you step out of the courthouse and say that where you don't have immunity?"
Step outside.
Which is a threat.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's his trial.
Wow.
Well, it just completely shocked the entire courtroom.
Yeah.
And Colin Thatcher pretty much sealed his fate with that.
So we know that he had a girlfriend at the time, but it seemed like she was kind of kicking in information as well. Did he wind up staying with her or?
No, she testified against him in court. They didn't stay together. He actually married a woman while he was in prison. But, after 3 years, what was it? They got married in 94 and they divorced 3 years later. Okay. But she saw him in a TV movie and felt that he was innocent, wanted to get into touch with him. And that's how their relationship bloomed.
And it only lasts 3 years, huh?
3 years.
I wonder what insight she would have into his mindset.
And I would think it would be easy to deal with him while he's in jail, but when you've got him standing in front of you, that's a different story.
Right. And then, of course, we have him get out of jail, and then he publishes a book.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do nowadays.
You've got to, right?
Yeah.
It's just like everything else that he's involved in. It's ridiculous. The Saskatchewan government knew he was going to come out with this book, so they rushed through the Profits and Criminal Notoriety Act.
Okay.
This prohibits the recounting of a crime by criminals for financial gain. Thatcher, always with an opinion, said it didn't apply to his book because he was talking about the court case, not the crime. Under the law.
Yeah, I don't know how you would separate.
That seems a little weak.
Yeah, how would you separate that? But I love that they rushed through this law, like anticipating, oh, he's talking about writing a book? Okay, get that law in there.
Yeah, I think by then they knew exactly what they were dealing with, right?
Yeah, wow.
Well, under that law, the proceeds go to the victims, their family members, and a victims fund. Thatcher took the government to court, forgetting that he really doesn't do well in court.
I guess so.
It got colorful. He argued the law was unconstitutional and it violated his freedom of expression. As you can imagine, the court disagreed with him and they upheld the law.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So he writes a
Yeah.
book he doesn't make any money on. From what I saw, he wrote other books too about different things, like kind of in the political arena. But that's, of course. Well,
Yeah.
he gets to live out his days on his ranch, and he's as strong and young as ever. So he has that going for him. All right, Christy, thank you so much for your help on today's episode. We really appreciate you. And I've got some other people to thank right now. Thank you, PayPal supporters Hillary Green, Brandy Fry, and Sigrid E. O'Hearn. For over 6 years, we've always run limited commercial ads here on YouTube. We can't do that without your support. If you'd like to help the channel keep going and keep growing, please visit lordandarts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee, like Lisa S. recently did. We know that learning about the mechanisms that help support and find justice in these cases is important to understand the many unsolved cases we also cover, and we really appreciate your support in allowing us to continue doing that. Remember, you can get another Lord and Art story every week on the Seriously Mysterious podcast. A new episode is coming tomorrow, and every Tuesday after that, visit seriouslymysterious.com and subscribe on your favorite podcatchers. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon below if you want to catch one of our weekly Secret Studio live shows. And of course, I'll be back with a new unsolved mystery for you on Friday, right here on the Lord and Arts channel.